Only a minute late.
Yeah. Today we are going to talk about how this is a slow time for flowers because it's kind of been a bit of a theme. Oh look, the flower crown stuff here from last week. It's kind of been a bit of a theme on
The videos.
on the videos. Though now that I'm thinking of it, I'm like maybe it hasn't been on the theme on the videos that have been released. Maybe it's a theme on the videos that are coming up.
Yeah.
I think
it's coming
or we
up.
kind of mention it in the last one, and it's a bigger theme in the videos that we have coming up. So thought maybe it would be an interesting topic to talk about for you guys.
We live in an agricultural area, as we talk about a lot, and there's lots of people who buy bouquets before their flowers produce, and then they have home gardens, cut flower gardens, or veggie gardens. We used to run into it all the time with the veggies, where people, we get to this time of abundance in the area. Everybody has the skills to grow a garden, and growing stuff here is quite easy.
Oh,
Whoa, wow,
thanks so much, Black Dog.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, we haven't been doing very many videos, very many live videos. We've been so busy.
Yeah.
So.
And so people will be like, "Ooh, wow, your flowers look great," but I've got some in my garden. Or another common thing is people are just traveling. A lot of times, especially near the early summer, you got your trips booked right away as soon as you can. Kids are out of school, so you're hitting the road, or you're hitting the road. A lot of times you'd be like, it could be Saturday market, and people.
Well, thanks so much. I don't know how to say your name, but thank you.
Yeah, people could be traveling in 3 or 4 days, and that could still throw them off from wanting to buy a bouquet.
Yeah, totally, right? Like, so the market is on Saturdays. If people are going away for the weekend, it means they're not there at the market to buy the bouquet, even if they're going to be there for the work week, even if they're there Monday to Friday. It's just it gets them out of their routine.
Yeah. But that being said, it's not like we're doing poorly. We're still doing extremely well.
Yeah, no.
When you do the math on it, we're pretty much selling 3 times as much money as we were last. And in the slow times,
I gotta be back. My glasses are so dirty. It's hard to look.
In this slower period of time, maybe it's dropping down to 2.5 times, maybe 2 times at the lowest of what we were doing last year. But we're still having stronger sales than I would have expected this year. It's just that it doesn't just keep rising every week. It's like, oh my god, new records. It does kind of hit a little bit of a low spot. And honestly, I was expecting this somewhat, just from past years. And I think that there's game plans that we can take into account in the future to deal with it, just by having better advertising, better word of mouth, more of a customer base, and our planting has gotten a little bit behind this year. We're so busy with the farm, and then the YouTube, and then family stuff, that we got a little bit behind on the farm this year. So maybe there's not as much sunflowers right now as there could have been, or so there's things that we could do to deal with this in the future. But I think it's important to recognize that it is something that is a trend and that is going to happen.
I left and you were celebrating how good we were doing.
Well, I was saying,
come back and
no, I'm saying that it always happens. That
the summer slump.
And that there's things that we can do in the future, I think, to deal with it.
The other thing too, I think, is being aware that this is a thing. Because this is our 4th year, and we've had flowers every single year, even though flowers hasn't been so much of a focus. And I would say this like summer slump thing is even more of a thing with veggies than it is with flowers.
With veggies, for sure, it's
Yeah,
more of a thing.
because even more so, you have people having veggie gardens who don't need to buy from you, right? And whereas people who buy people who like flowers want flowers in their garden and want flowers in their house.
Yeah.
So you see that slump a little bit less, but I've seen lots of people talking about it online, and you know, it can cause a lot of stress. And it caused a lot of stress for us, like, you know, in the past years, because it's like, what's going on? You feel like you're just starting to get some momentum with the season.
This is supposed to be your biggest time of the year, right? Summer. Supposed to be your big sales.
And then you get there and you have everything and it looks better than ever, and you're selling the same as you did when you had hardly anything.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're failing when it's actually just like a normal pattern.
Yeah. Now, you know, one of the things that I think when you recognize the patterns of the year, it also provides other opportunities. Like, you know,
we're going to talk about the fresh to dry.
No, I was gonna talk about how, like, next year we're gonna experiment with like a fall planting of ranunculus, right? Yeah. So it's like maybe the summer is our chance to get caught up and prep. You know, like we still want to sell, we still want to make money in the summer, but it's like the early spring with the tulips and the ranunculus when there's very little flower competition in the area. And then the fall when people give up on the flowers after like the first frost, there's like no local competition for flowers hardly. Everybody shuts down.
Which, I mean, fair enough. It's tricky.
Yeah.
Right.
But if we go at it hard with high tunnels, then maybe that's one of our most profitable times of year, right? Like, and so maybe the summer is when we get ready for our super busy fall season. We're still going to farmers markets and making decent money, and the roadside stand's still selling decent, but it's not going to be the best sales of the year. And so we take that little bit of a breather to get the farm established for a strong fall. And so, you know, I think we just have to view it as opportunities. We've always, you know, because we had the benefit of having watched Kurt do his farm. You know, he was all about the shoulder season, being first to market with stuff, extending the season as far as possible. So, you know, we are trying to do that with flowers as well.
Yeah, we're taking that approach that we always had with veggies to the flowers. And like what Ian was saying, you know, I just want to reiterate kind of the back end to what he's saying. So spring is like insane. Spring is like crazy time here on the farm because you're so busy planting for the year at the same time as you're harvesting and selling. We did really good by getting rid of the seedling sale and flipping our focus to having earlier crops. And that worked really well for us. But, you know, we're still having these stumbling blocks for time management. But summer opens up this window again where we have a little bit more time. And if we take the gas off of trying to plant and harvest for like crazy amounts in the summer, which we maybe don't need because maybe there's less customers actually during that period, that would give us time to devote to planting for the fall, right? So it's not only about selling when you can sell, it's also about like the time management, and kind of instead of seeing slower sales in the summer as being a negative thing, you can see it as an opportunity to scale back on harvesting, arranging, selling, and instead put some of that focus into planting for fall. Mm-hmm. Does that?
Yep.
I know it's the same thing, just a little bit of a different perspective on it.
Yeah. You know, we've been really happy with how things have been going so far this year. The markets are continuing to be like really strong, and you know, like the total sales are kind of like in the 2 to 3 times range of what they were last year, but the markets are pretty close to double of that amount. The roadsides or the markets are still doing like really well, and at this time of year last year, I think we were kind of in this like $750 market range where we were doing like $750 every market. There's a bunch markets
I
last
think we
year
had
that fell
some
in
where
that
we were
range.
like getting close to 1,000.
We did, but it would kind of be like that would be like a hot week, and then we'd get back to the $750
Yeah, like our
baseline.
base. Yeah.
Um, and so we were working really hard. It was a lot of work still to do that, and so it feels like now we're able to do more, and the business is kind of like showing itself now. It's like this was the big, because I know we can sell flowers in the fall. That is
I mean,
something.
Thanksgiving last year was, and so we're Canadian, so Thanksgiving it's before Halloween.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the week before.
Yeah.
Like somewhere in there. It's kind of like mid October-ish. And we'd had frost, but we still had lots of veggies, and we had flowers. And that weekend, like our market was insane.
Yeah.
Right? Like that was
our best market.
Best market ever, and it was like best market blown it out of the water.
Yeah.
It was kind of like this year when we had our $2,000 market, whereas like we're trying to beat the best, which was like 1530, right?
Mhm.
Is that the number? Something like that.
It was 1580.
1580. Yeah. So we went, last Thanksgiving last year was like we went trying to hit 1,000, and we got 1580. In the same way we had the year going trying to hit 1580 and hitting 2,000. It's just it was big. And so if we were down there with like $3,000 in bouquets, like maybe it's kind of one of those days like Mother's Day where if like I feel like we're more limited by what we can do than by what we can get for customers.
On Mother's Day, I think we sold close to $1,300 at the farmers market,
and you sold out at like 10:30 or something.
Yeah,
or even earlier.
And I said, and that's just the start of the best rush of the day, or it's kind of like mid best rush of the day. But the stand was already looking super worked over by that point in time. Like it was just crazy. It was just the start of the market, buy until the end of the market, until we were sold out.
Yeah, and I mean that market is like some of the reason why I've been like staying up so late on the Friday nights, because it's like,
because
it's like the later I stay up, the more I can make, the more we can see just how far we can push it. And then having that $2,000 market this year is just, it's like crazy.
Yeah, and once we started this like idea where, because we'd sold out early in a bunch of the farmers markets, or had basically emptied the stand early in the market, and it was like
you still have the dried flowers.
Yeah, but of the fresh stuff, we started trying to see how much we could bring down and how much we could sell, so that we could have a good selection of fresh all the way to the end. And then since that's been going, now Serina's making 120 bouquets, on the Friday nights, and that's part of the reason why we can't escape this like 4 a.m. type thing where we just have we have flowers. You might as well make bouquets. You might as well try to make money. What's another hour of work at that point in time when you're in the zone, you could just pump together a bunch more bouquets.
Though I feel like we're hitting the point now where we don't need 120. We
can dial it back.
We need to dial it back. We still send down 10 of the $40 bouquets.
Yeah.
But maybe now, instead of sending like the 80 to 100 of the $20 bouquets, we need to do more, like 60 to 70 of them.
Yeah. And like, it is what it is, right? Like we're working pretty hard to to put it all together. So if the difference of just like letting off the gas a little bit in response to this this kind of like lull period, I say lull, but like I said, we're still selling twice as much in money as last year, or more. I'd say 2.5 times right now. There's nothing wrong with kind of trying to get caught up and planning on this period of time in the future as well. You know, like in the future, we want to be doing 4 times as much as last year, essentially, because last year we were kind of averaging out to
I'm like, what? 4 times as much? No, just double, but you're double this year. No,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, I can't do 4 times as much.
Yeah, and I think at that point in time, we'd probably be needing some.
Yeah, we need
help.
an employee to do double
Again.
double what we're currently doing.
Yeah.
We're like pretty close to our max.
You know, if we had like a bunch more high tunnels and we had our 30-foot by 70-foot greenhouse up,
Oh yeah.
which, you know, it's a bit of a thing because we have to like level a pad for it.
It's a big job.
Yeah, and it's like we have to find the time to do it.
It's gonna happen. We just we don't know when it's gonna happen.
Yeah, but when we get all that going, then that's a lot of inside growing space that we can start. We can start thinking about it, make a plan, and we can have fall plantings of ranunculus. We can have all kinds of things over winter for early starts.
Yeah.
Not just the focal stuff that is growing in the greenhouse, but all that filler and the secondary flowers and stuff that that really fill up the bouquet. And sometimes you go to make a bouquet and then it's like, this isn't a bouquet, this is a bunch. This is a bunch of flowers.
Yeah.
Not a bouquet of flowers. And so if we have all this inside growing space, then and this plan and all this knowledge on what we're doing and a reputation.
And I want to clarify too, when we talk about the tunnels, we're not talking about heat. Like we're not talking about.
Yeah, there's no heating.
This is just what covered space can do for you. And one of the things that we've had to kind of rethink about these covered spaces, because we've purchased them for kind of like summer growing to get this like extra kick of heat.
For like the tomatoes and the eggplants and the peppers.
Yeah, and like the last thing you need with flowers is more heat. Where we are, it's like 100, right? Like the flowers are like, not 100, we hate it. So for us, it's like, do we just use them for the spring? Do we just use them for the fall? And what we've done this year is we've bought shade cloth for them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, hey, these are spaces where maybe we can grow things in the summer that can't handle our heat.
Yeah.
Maybe these are spaces that allow us to, finally reconsider dahlias and like make them profitable.
Yeah.
So as we think more about flowers with these spaces, it's it gets the gears grinding, starts like making you think about what you can do and everything.
Yeah. Well, those high tunnels, they're the cheapest greenhouse structures you can get. And
okay, you can come, but you gotta come back.
And one of the new ones that we bought was like $1,500. I can't remember, somewhere in the $1,500 to $2,000 range. Because we're in Canada, right?
Sure. I don't know where but you have to find.
I think that the Farmers Friends ones, or at least they used to be cheaper. I'm not sure what a high tunnel costs.
Oh, I don't know. Everything's gotten so expensive.
Everything's changed, right?
They used to be $1,000, like, but with like everything.
Yeah.
It used to be that you could get a high tunnel up in Canada for $1,000, but I feel like it's more like 2,000 now for them. But even at $2,000,
like think about how many
pay for themselves in a season.
Yeah, like how much ranunculus do we grow in the high tunnel this year, right? Like.
Yeah, totally.
And you might have to replace the plastic on them over time, but like the metal, unless you get some sort of crazy windstorm or snow load that you're not prepared for, and it, you can damage the pipe like that. But essentially, because the parts are so, cookie cutter or whatever, you can piece things together.
And like for people, if all of a sudden some crazy weather comes through, and it's like, oh my god, my high tunnel is about to collapse. People go and they just cut the plastic during like when it's like, whoa, the metal, like it's getting dangerous. They're like, I'm cutting my losses. I'm just cutting the plastic. I'll pay the couple $100 it costs to replace the plastic so I don't destroy the frame.
Yeah, and those like we could just pump some money, get a bunch of those,
Well, okay, so this is the one thing I finally did the math on how big the big greenhouse is. Because so we currently have set up 3 of our tunnels, which and so they're
Well, it's
50
2,000
feet.
square feet.
No, I know, but they're 50 feet by how wide are
The
they?
high tunnels?
Yeah, like
They're like
14.
17.
Are they that big? So we only have 3 beds in them.
There's one that's shorter. The one that
I feel like they're not 17. Right? Because if they're 17, it's me. I'd be like 4 beds.
Yeah.
Right? But so we put 3 beds in each of the tunnels, and our beds are usually 4 feet. And I think they're a little bit wider. Right? So, it makes sense that maybe they're like 15 feet on average.
the high tunnels we have are pretty low though. So I think
which also makes it so you want to be careful on the outside edge. On our newer tunnels, we have a foot of landscape fabric into the tunnel. That's just like keeping weeds out.
Yeah, which is something that I would recommend.
Yeah. But I did the math on our big tunnel that we're going to put up. It's the same size as 3 of our tunnels. So we currently have 3 tunnels up. We have another tunnel that got taken down last fall that we're going to put up fairly soon, probably.
Yeah.
Like in August, we'll probably put it up. It's going up over where we have the ranunculus and the tulips. So we need to clean that area up. But yeah, when we get that big tunnel up, it's gonna be like we have 7 of these tunnels now. And considering what we can do in just like 1 tunnel or 2 tunnels.
Yeah. Well, we could have a tunnel that's like an early planting of tulips, right? Like we could have if we could be at the market for 2 more weeks without any competition, because we didn't have any competition with tulips at the farmers market. That's like 2 more big sellout markets right there. No problem at all. People were buying the tulips like crazy, and
Sorry, will you pass the water? Sorry, guys.
So, right there, what's the value of that tunnel space if it means, you're gonna sell $3,000 at 2 farmers markets, Yeah. It's like it's paying for itself so quick, and
I'm just gonna jump in here. There's a question that is worth mentioning. So we're in Canada. We're Canadian here. So there's no free money. There's no free tunnels for us.
Yeah.
Because someone's asking about if we've applied for grants for the tunnels. But if you're down in the States, no excuse for not getting tunnels.
Yeah.
All you have to do is put up them. They're every county has a grant or multiple grants for free tunnels every single year.
Yeah.
They're there's so many of them that there's people who are home gardeners who are getting these tunnels because they're desperate to give them away to people.
You hear stories all the time on the communities where we hang out with where people, are like, oh, there was a budget for it and nobody was applying or not enough people applied to fill the budget. And then I got one because nobody else had applied. We don't have that, but we are, it looks like we're a functional business now. So there is budgets in our money to do things.
I'm there's a budget.
Yeah, we have a budget, but we can.
But you mean it as
there's a line item in our budget.
You mean it as not as in we're limiting ourselves in money.
No, but there's money to spend to grow the farm. We
always the plan from day one. The plan from we bought this property was we had a budget of $100,000 to build a farm, and the reality is the current budget, because prices have gone up so much, is we're probably sitting at 150 invested, and we probably still have another 50 to invest. It's probably going to take $200,000 to build the farm into the vision that we have for it.
A lot of that money went into
money.
the outbuilding, but the outbuilding is a lot of the business that we can do.
But it's also it's just bits and pieces, right?
Yeah.
What did the greenhouses cost? They were when we did that order, like 12,000,
15,000.
15,000.
Yeah. And most of that was tied up in this 30-foot by 70-foot greenhouse. It's even though that there's a lull this year, I'm feeling really positive about the way that the year's going. The markets have been strong, the roadside stands have been strong, the workload. Although we are working all the time, constantly on like one thing or another. There is a future that we can envision where we're just farming and doing YouTube that is a reasonable workload for the two of us. It's not like it's got more work-life balance than what we're currently experiencing.
Which was one of our it was one of our biggest concerns about last year, right? Where like there was no work-life balance and there was no potential for work-life balance.
Yeah.
Right? That's why we were like, we need to make major changes on the farm last year.
Because the 5-year plan was supposed to be, after that, it's like you have a profitable business and you're not working all the time because the infrastructure is all built. The YouTube videos have been a lot of fun lately. I feel like they've been turning out really well. I assume that a lot of you guys agree because you're here listening to us talk. That always feels good when you finish a video and you're really proud of it and people respond really positively. Lots of people tell us about how the videos help them with one thing or another, and even if it's just 30 minutes of enjoyment in a week, that means a lot, that we get to be 30 minutes of happy time for lots of people.
Totally.
And so that keeps us motivated to keep pounding through all the this. This is the joke that I was making this weekend, because every week I like to have a few jokes just in my back pocket, or funny.
You may not know this,
funny
but Ian
anecdotes.
likes jokes.
Just something to say to fill in a conversation, some things to talk about, so that you can start conversations with people, and then not be saying the same thing every week. You can say the same thing 40 times in a day at the farmer's market because you're dealing with 40 different people. But if you only say the same thing, if you
Every
always,
week.
then people are gonna be like, heard that one before, right? So you gotta keep it fresh. And I just like to talk about stuff, whatever's pertinent. But Serina and I, we've been trying to get all of the tasks done. When you have a million different tasks, sometimes you cherry pick the things that you like to do, and you leave the things that you don't want to do, and then those things never get done. So we've been using just like a planning app to help keep us on schedule with all the different stuff that we do, and so it's like a calendar. But we already had a calendar that's like our family calendar for
This joke.
for our
It's a pretty good joke.
our dates and stuff. Like, oh, we got this to do, we got that to do, and then now we have another calendar that's like, that's just like tasking work. You're like, oh, we got to do this, not. And so I was joking to people. I was like, oh, we're so busy that we filled up one calendar, and now my wife downloaded another calendar app, and we filled that one up too. Like just joking with people about how the farm is like keeping us, busy morning, noon, and night. And it's so busy that like multiple calendars are filled with things to do. And it's true, but it's been keeping us on schedule.
Yeah, no, I like, having a plan laid out for the next few days is helping us like get things off the list.
Yeah.
Plus like I think in a way too, the little bit of a lull is helping also, right? Like I need to make bouquets tonight for the stand. That can be a big job with how much stuff's been selling, but I don't really feel a ton of pressure for tonight. It's kind of like, get 10 made.
Yeah.
and going to pick and make 10, like, that'll take me like 3 hours type thing, not even. So that's, for me, that's like a very reasonable thing to have on the task list. Whereas if I was trying to make like 30 or 40 bouquets because I was building them, for like a busy weekend, that'd be like 6, 7, 8 hours. And maybe I'd go out saying, oh, I'm going to do this, but then I'm going to try to get something else done in the day. And then, just harvesting, arranging, and selling takes up all the hours, and it doesn't leave time to do anything else.
I feel like there's a version of the farm in the future that I'm like, maybe we'll be able to do this, and this will feel really good. Because we're talking about, selling flowers. Flowers seem to be the business. Flowers seem to be the thing that makes the money. And I'm sure we'll sell carrots in the future. I'm sure we'll sell some.
I know they're ready. I'm like, we just need like a window.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna not put the time into being able to sell flowers before we put the time in, or prioritize the veggies over the flowers. That's not happening, right? The flowers get priority. So if there's only so much time, if there's only enough time to prep and sell flowers in a week, that's all that gets sold. But with the flowers being such a good business, and then like the YouTube being the other side of it, maybe there's a future where we can just sell some veggies, but we can grow food for the food bank and sell flowers and make our living. And then every time I brought food down to the food bank in the past, it like makes me feel a type of good that it feels like just feels really good inside when
and maybe that's something that would pair really nicely, going back to the theme of the summer lull, right? Like when it's like, oh, you don't need to be like harvesting because there's not a ton of sales, like maybe it would pair very well with
we always joke about the team flowers and the team veggie stuff, and I feel like there was like a little bit of a swap. Because originally I was like team flowers and Serena was team veggies, because Serina was born with this desire to grow food. She can't really verbalize it. She doesn't know why, but she's just got this drive and this energy to grow food.
Like Pac-Man.
Yeah.
And you're like, the game is that you eat up those dots and those veggies and those fruits, but like you never ask why. Mm-hmm. Why does Pac-Man do that? All you know is that you have to do that.
Yeah, and I was like thinking, because there's certain things that I wanted to do with the YouTube channel and with the business, that I was like, I think flowers are the road to doing that.
I make wheels.
And so I was team.
I like that.
I was team flowers and Serena was team veggies. Sam's got a toy. He's all happy about it. Okay, Sam.
Okay, no. That makes for bad videos. You can come sit if you want, though.
Yeah. So then the flowers started doing so good last year that we started having all these conversations about getting rid of.
One time we
about getting rid of the veggies and just selling flowers, like we obviously are. And I started to think
that you built hers.
I started to think inside. I was like, "Ooh, there's something that I feel like I'm going to lose if we're not growing all this food all the time." And I started to feel internally like I was becoming team veggies. And Serena, because Serena loves, business and crunching numbers and wants to make the farm a success.
I'm team profitable.
She's team money, which is perfectly fair. It's like, why would we?
My favorite emoji is that emoji with like the dollar signs. The person's like puking the dollar sign.
It's not like Serena like spends money on anything other than farming.
I just like having money.
Yeah. We don't go on vacations. We don't have fancy cars.
Yeah, I don't want to spend it. I just want to have it.
You don't like, you have to ask You're like, oh, do you think I should buy this work overalls that I've been looking at longingly for like 3 months? I'm like, you just buy them for this all. She doesn't just go spend money easily.
Yeah,
But-
Bryn's giving me.
Yeah.
That's me. That's literally in my mind. When I like look in the mirror, that's like what I see.
So, once the flowers seemed like the path to a successful business, Serina went there. That was where her mind went. But now I'm like, no, veggies.
So basically,
Team veggies.
so this is what I've decided. So
I need to go get this, buddy.
I'm team profitable and Ian's team contrarian, right? He left. He didn't hear me ripping on him. Okay, what's the theme? I feel like we've gotten off of the theme. Okay, so someone I saw in the comments, yeah, my favorite flower is money. That is true. That is my favorite flower. I make that joke on Facebook all the time. I literally in my downloaded saved images, I have this picture that's it's like a rose made out of dollar bills. And when people are like, "What's your favorite flower to grow on the farm?" In my flower farm groups I'm in on Facebook, I post that all the time.
Yeah, I'm also team cat.
No, so did you hear? I said your team
Oh,
contrarian.
I saw it, and I heard it.
You walked away in response to that comment. Okay, no, but what was it? Oh, there was a question about the stand. And they're asking if the sales have slowed in the stand. And I would say that the sales have probably slowed in the stand even more than what they've slowed at the farmer's market.
Yeah,
percentage wise.
The farmer's market is in the normal range.
Well,
Yeah.
what did we do this last week?
I don't want to tell you.
Well, just tell them, it doesn't matter. We did 1,300
13.
and change.
1380.
So
that's a good market.
and we've been doing
That's better than
the
Mother's Day.
1,500, right?
But we haven't been doing 1,000.
But we've been doing over 1,000 at the roadside stand, and when I don't know, the math got a little lost on the roadside stand, but we were doing less than 1,000 this last week on the roadside stand. So percentage wise, that's a bigger slump. But I don't know. There's things that we can do to kick the traffic back up on the stand too. We could finally
put up a Facebook ad.
we could put up some Facebook ads. The plan was we were gonna do those at least once a week. And we've done a couple this year. We also were before the stand opens, we're gonna get all of our signage done. And we still haven't ordered the signs. So we could do that. Once we get caught up on the farm, that's a great thing that we could get some work done on. I would love to get a sandwich board that's printed that says fresh local farm fresh flowers or something like that.
I got the whiner.
Oh, Ian's got the kitten. To show you guys the kitten. This one isn't allowed outside yet because he's still just a baby. So he isn't in the videos very much. But he's a cutie.
He uses all of his nails when he wants to get away though. Buddy's a very gentle boy.
Yes,
the one that I had
nice
before.
boy.
And he if he wants to get away, then maybe he protests verbally, but or tries to get away a little bit. But
yeah, Buddy talks. Buddy cries because he talks to us.
But when we pick up the kitten, Serina or I, he just full on. He's like,
he screams like you're murdering him. The kitten doesn't. He has one cry, and it's the cry of you're running a cat over with a car.
Yeah.
Right? He's he definitely makes, and it could be today our daughter went out the door and he's not allowed outside. He tried to sneak out, and so the door was closed, she walked off, and then he just sat at the door and was screaming his face off.
Yeah.
Like he's being murdered type noises. And I think he's getting louder. He's getting because he used to when Ian and the kids would go to the bus stop and I'd like still be in bed. I'd hear him like crying like he was dying about them leaving. But it wasn't like the same full on murder cry. It was a little bit more like pathetic baby cries. But now it's like it's and I think it's just like a breed trait because he's a Bengal.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, they're very vocal. They like talk lots.
Yeah. But he doesn't really
talk
do it when
lots.
the kids pick him up.
Yeah, no.
It's just when Serena and I pick him up. I'm like, I literally feed you every day, and I don't like, you know, shove you in a cardboard box. It's like he likes to be played with hard, I guess, the way Sam does.
He's like, the other cats are like over it because he plays so hard.
He just like relentlessly attacks them, so they're all like abandoning the house. They're like, it's nice out. We'll just live outside. We'll just live in the outbuilding. That's fine. But he does the thing where if you're holding him and he decides that he wants to get away, then it's like all of his claws come out, including his hind ones. So he can mess you up pretty good.
Because they got like those skinny little kitten claws, so they're extra sharp.
I know, but that is like some cats do it and some cats don't.
Yeah.
And he definitely does it, and he does it quick. So, you know, he doesn't get picked up that much.
It is what it is.
Yeah, which is too bad because he's a little cutie, but he's funny. You know, he's like so playful that I've never seen such an energetic kitten.
Yeah, he's definitely a high energy. He's gonna be a high energy cat.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else are we gonna do to beat the summer slump? I mean, one thing that would have been good that we didn't do is not mess up our sunflowers. I don't know if you were talking about that. We messed up our sunflowers, so we're like not going to have sunflowers when sunflowers are like the best seller.
Yeah.
Though I reached out to a flower farm friend, who last year was like, I have so many sunflowers, I don't know what to do with these. And I was like, hey, did you do that again?
Yeah. We can't sell those at our farmer's market because our farmer's market is make it, bake it, grow it, something like that.
Yeah.
You have to like grow everything that you sell, which is part of the reason that it's such a good farmer's market. But we can sell the ones
we can
there
sell them at the roadside stand.
You know, like we'll have like some sunflowers.
Yeah, we'll have a few.
And so we just make sure that those are the ones that go to the farmer's markets, and then we can sell from our roadside stand these other ones and fill in the gaps, right? So
you know, if we buy like a bucket of 50 every week from our friends, you know, or even 100, right? You know, that can get turned into like 25 bouquets.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of the demand at the roadside stand. Not 25 bouquets a week, but kind of like half of them have a sunflower in it, and we can sell 50 a week, you know, sell like $1,000 at the stand. Obviously, and when we do the bouquets, it's not just like, oh, here's a sunflower. Right, they're mixed in. They're a mixed bouquet.
We messed up our sunflowers because we were so busy with all this sales. The sales numbers being so high in the spring that we didn't know how much time. You know, we just kept putting time into making all these bouquets and keeping up on the videos and, you know, all this other stuff in life, and the planting schedule got behind.
So, and there's actually two parts. We had a double whammy on the sunflowers, which Ian doesn't necessarily know because I haven't been complaining about it too much. But so what I did is I direct seeded sunflowers, and I started sunflowers in a tray at the same time.
He's back.
You're trying to make him scream?
No, give him some color.
Yeah, so I started because I was like, I'll just start double. So I planted double, and I have 0. So I started them in trays to transplant, and I direct seeded them at the same time. And the direct seeded ones, for some reason, they didn't grow. They're no, they germinated, but they're not growing. I don't know exactly why, but they got planted in a spot that they just really didn't like. And then I was like, okay, it's fine because I have them in the seedling trays, and then the ones in the seedling trays also didn't get planted out in time, so they're messed up too. But we'll have lots for the fall because
Yeah.
There's 60 days. Plant it now.
Someone's asking there about permits. We didn't need permits because to
Permits
start
for what?
to start a flower farm. They want to start a flower farm in
Oh.
Ontario, but we have agricultural zoning where we are.
Yeah, Ontario is different. We have something called the agricultural
No,
land.
that's not. We're agricultural zoning.
I know, but in Ontario they have agricultural zoning too. But then you also have to like join these associations,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like it's actually it's pretty complicated. But we have the most simple version of farmland that you can get in BC, which is we're zoned agricultural and then we're provincially protected as agricultural. So we're double agricultural. The province sees us as agricultural land, and the town sees us as agricultural land. So there's no one who's ever going to complain about us having a farm.
The times
The only people who would complain about farming on this land is if we weren't farming.
I think one of the happiest moments when we moved here, when we first moved here, in that first like fall that we were here, and I rented a jackhammer, and I was jackhammering at like, midnight. But we have no noise. We have no like noise limitations because we're a farm, and like honestly, by the time the sound got to any of our neighbors, at that time of the year, their windows were closed.
It was inside too. He was jackhammering inside the outbuilding, so it wasn't like he was like out like jackhammering in the middle of the field.
But I was like, oh my god, I could use a grinder at any time of the day. I could like, oh yeah.
Yeah, like if we wanted to have events on our property and like have music going until midnight, that would be protected.
Was it?
Yeah, because as long as it was agritourism, right? So if we were if we were doing like a wedding at our barn,
I think we'd
have to farm.
I think a lot of that stuff starts as I remember. I haven't looked at the zoning in a long time.
Yeah, we need to be bigger.
But there was a total different set of rules once you reached about 5 acres in size. Once in that was like A2 zoning maybe, or maybe it was just like a subset of agricultural 1 of all the stuff that you could do. But once you got to 2 hectares, which is about 5 acres, then you could have like people camping on your property, right? Like, so you could have.
Sam's watching me in this.
You could have.
We found our video while we were watching TV, so now Sam's watching it.
Oh, you guys are watching Mommy and Daddy talk. You guys don't even want to listen to us normally.
I know, but it's fun.
It is fun.
It's fun.
So is Sam watching you right now? Hi, Sam. Hi.
Hi.
Oh yeah. Well, that's probably for the best.
No.
But yeah, once you get 5 acres, then you could have like the farm workers. So what a lot of the farms around here have is like farm workers who actually camp on the orchards that they're harvesting on, and then like you can do all sorts of stuff once you're legally allowed to have people camping, right? All this agricultural tourism stuff opens up, but we can't do any of that because we're only 2.5 acres, right? But it is what it is. We really couldn't have picked a better location to build this farm than where we are right now, because all those other farms that we were looking at when we were shopping around, when I look at them with the hindsight of our current situation, I'm like, we couldn't have built as good of a business in any of those other locations. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
Just like the fact that it's kind of been my dream always, to have the ability to sell from a storefront, but not pay like this crazy exorbitant like rent payment, right? We have the ability to sell from a store, but we don't have to have like a like $3,000 a month, rental fee or whatever crazy money would cost. So like this, all the other locations. This is like the only strip in our city where there's like this intense collection of like farms that people actively shop at. There's other scattered farms in different areas, but there's no spot that equals this run of farms. And ours is one of the first on the right as you're driving, kind of like past, as you kind of start down this road. Ours is one of the first in this string of farms. So it's like, pretty primo real estate. We just need to keep building that business.
Someone was asking when we're gonna buy the property behind us.
The 40-acre one?
So that property that we go down to forage on was for sale last year. It was like over $10 million.
Yeah, if anybody wants to, super chat us 10 mil, we'll buy it.
It's like a massive chunk of property that's zoned for high density. It's gonna be like, 100, no, like more, like 300 townhouses, like when it finally gets developed. So, it's not like we're sneaking onto like someone's farm, and it's not like the people who do own it would ever do anything or ever care.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. There's no world in which we're getting that.
Mm-mm.
Also, it's like it's zoned high density because it's like, it's like a cliff, right? It's not.
It gets pretty steep.
It's not anything you'd want to farm.
It's like that area that we're foraging on in the videos, and when you see the like slope pictures, and it however steep it looks, that's the camera, because the camera has like a level on it, so you can tell when you're like level with the ground, as opposed to like the camera's like this. All of those like downhill shots, that's with the camera perfectly level. So it's not like I'm like the hill's like this and then I'm shooting it like this so it looks extra steep or something.
Yeah, it's steep.
It's like seriously steep, and that's part of the reason too that we have such a view of the valley where we are, because essentially we're at the edge. Our property, where it stops, is where the hill starts. Doesn't start because our whole property has a slope, but that's where the steep part of the hill really starts. So when you go down there, that's why you can see for so long, right?
Also going back to, I assume, why people were asking about that. We, like, once everything is developed, we'll have an acre in production. And an acre in production, we were having a conversation about this the other day. I wouldn't be surprised if I could gross us $150,000 to $200,000 off of our property fully developed.
Well, imagine how many weddings we could do in the summer.
0. I imagine 0 weddings. And if we ever did want to grow more than what we're growing, probably the only thing we'd be looking for is to get kind of like a half acre, and have a spot to grow the sunflowers, because the sunflowers is the one that kind of takes up the most amount of space. But it would, it's not actually that hard to find land to lease where we are, because there's lots of people who own these agricultural properties, who want it to be farmed so they can get tax breaks on their properties, but they own it because they want to live in the country. They don't own it because they want to farm it themselves.
People were buying up all the agricultural land in BC. This is like a trend that was happening, and then they build, because they could build a mansion on it. So they build a mansion, and then they say they had a winery or a vineyard or a orchard, or they just had hay. They'd find someone to pay them, the $10,000 or whatever that they needed.
No, they'd lease it for a couple thousand.
Yeah, but they'd get the money that they needed to get the tax break, because essentially how the land is incentivized to do farming is in your property taxes. Like our property taxes, since we have farm status, we don't pay tax on the land. Because our tax bill separates the land value and the house value, or the buildings, all the buildings on it value, and so we only pay for the value of the buildings on the property, which is the smaller portion of the value compared to the land, right?
For where we are.
For where we are.
Right,
And
like for example, I have no idea because things are like insane now, but like our house is valued at like 200,000, and our property is probably like $1 million.
yeah,
So we're saving like a lot of money on the taxes.
yeah. So our tax bill was, I don't know, a sixth, maybe like 20%, 25% maybe of what it was before the first year when we didn't have farm status. Because when we bought the property, it didn't have farm status yet. Once you get farm status, then you have it until you don't make those sales. So it's kind of like assumed.
Yeah, you have to like submit, like,
and you have to do like sales records.
you have to be
and
like,
stuff.
I sold this much this year, and they're like, perfect, thanks.
Yeah. So there's definitely this trend where people would build a mansion on like primo farmland, pay hardly any taxes. Well, they still pay a lot because they have a mansion, but comparatively, because they weren't paying anything on this $3 million orchard that they built their mansion on. They were just paying for the value of the mansion, and then it's kind of like, what does that do for the future of that farmland when every farm has a mansion attached to it? It kind of it screws with the ability of farmers to farm. Instead it's like rich people can just like have all of the farmland, and be like the lords,
lord and
castle.
vassals, right?
Yeah.
It's feudalism,
and
right?
And it kind of throws everything off.
But I will say, like, in a way, it also makes it so there is access to land if you want to lease it, right? It and like Ian's point is very valid. If you want to be a farmer and own farmland, it's impossible. You need to be rich and then decide to be a farmer. But if you are a farmer, it means that there's lots of people who own farmland who don't want to farm it themselves. So there's lots of potential for leasing. But you don't necessarily know that until you start farming, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like once you're farming and you're like, hey, I actually can farm, I actually can make you the money, I can commit to getting you farm status, then it opens up a lot of potential.
Yep. Right?
Like our neighbor has like tons of orchards that he farms, and like he does really well for himself with that.
Cherries seem like they're money for a lot of people. Cherries are so much money that that they fly helicopters to dry them off after the rain. There's like a helicopter flying on the property across from us this morning because we had this crazy rainstorm last night. Very, very unique rainstorm for Kelowna in the summer because actual rain fell.
I know, I was like, it rained for like 20 minutes and I was like, okay, but go turn the water on. We'll still need to water.
Yeah.
And Ian ignored me. But
it was still wet.
But I went out and I was, whoa, it actually did water.
Yeah. Because like in the summer here, you'll hear thunder, but you won't see lightning. Right? So you hear thunder booming off kind of from the mountains a lot of the time. But like I really don't remember seeing very many lightning strikes ever happen in Kelowna. And growing up in Ontario, in southern Ontario, we had these like, it was like very humid there. So we'd have these like summer thunderstorms quite regularly, like, rains every week type thing. These storms where significant amounts of water would fall, and that doesn't happen here. It's like you could maybe hear this like thunder rolling up in the hills or the mountains around you, but nothing would fall. Or like a rain cloud would come and it would like, but it would just keep moving. It would move so fast across where you are that the actual rain that would like accumulate would be so minimal that
Be
it
like
would,
spitting in the dust.
yeah, like you could go after a rainstorm and you could kick the ground and dust would come up still. And this storm that happened last night was like it was a hailstorm in places. We didn't get the hail, but it was like just the tiniest bit shy of what the hail, because I was in the greenhouse and I could see like the tiniest bits of hail coming, and the drops were just massive. These water drops were just massive, and it kept that pace up for 10 or 15 minutes, and it rained significantly for a while outside of that as well. So a very unique storm. And then this morning they had the helicopters out there drying the cherries off, because the water will sit on the top where the stem goes into the cherry, and then it'll just stay there and it'll cause,
as it heats up, as it falls, and then as the water heats up, as the sun hits them, it causes the top of the cherry to split, and then they can't sell it. It becomes unmarketable.
Yeah.
And the other part to it is it rains so rarely that they only have to do this helicopter thing a couple of times. And our neighbor doesn't. He has like a big fan on his tractor. So I felt bad for him because it rained for like 20 minutes. And then I heard him, and it was, I don't know, like 9:30 when it rained. And I heard him still going when I fell asleep in bed at 1 a.m. He was going with his fans, blowing off, and it's, this is the time of year when for them it's like so crazy, and then to like, they're up with dawn to do it, but then to be up all night also spraying them off. When they have to do the spraying at night too of all the pesticides and chemicals and stuff that they do. So he works. We work hard. He works harder.
Yeah.
And smarter.
It's pretty funny because like where we live, this part of the community, it's very much, it's just all cherries here. There's some vineyards, but there's lots and lots of cherries here in this area, and lots of people have also, this area of town has become more densely populated in the last 20 years.
Complaining.
Yeah, so people
this
are
is when
always,
we're like, haha.
people are always moving
rights.
here and complaining about the helicopter noises or like the fan noise. They'll be like, oh,
I moved to the country for it to be like calm and relaxing, and now I like can't sleep all night. There's these fans going, and I like to sleep with my windows open, but like my neighbor, and so I sent him a message. I was like, excuse me, but I'm trying to sleep here. Yeah. And he like didn't even respond.
I understand that they have a business to do, but they don't have to do it in the middle of the night.
It's like they actually do.
They literally do.
They literally do.
And for every one of those, there'll be like 50 people who jump on them in the comments and being like, that's part of the living in like cherry land or whatever you want to call it, and then they'll be like, oh, like you got to support your local farms. This is what they have to do, so there's lots of people that understand. It's just like those odd people that get all mad about the farm noise.
Kelowna Karen.
it's like those people are everywhere. My phone is about to die though. So I think we need to.
We should get going.
Wrap it up. We got.
We still got more to do.
I know. Serina's got to make bouquets, and I got to get a video finished. So our next video, it won't be done for tomorrow, but it'll be done for Wednesday. Seems like. So.
Yeah. The plan we're still behind on videos. We're working on in members chat. I was thinking about that. I'll do that. I'll start scheduling stuff. But what was I saying? we're behind on videos. So this video that we're editing that's going to go out isn't from this weekend. But then our goal is this weekend.
Oh, thanks so much.
Oh, thanks so much, Black Dog.
Wow.
That is overly
Very,
generous.
very generous.
2 of them. Yeah, that's very distracting, Black Dog. Thank you. Yeah, so we're trying to get caught up.
It might not ever happen until the fall.
No,
It might
don't
not
say
ever
that
happen.
because we're gonna get working on it, right? Because it's gonna get done, and then Wednesday, Thursday, probably not Friday.
I don't know. It's not. You're not really painting the picture of where I'm
It's
seeing.
gonna happen.
It's so
we're
hard.
gonna get caught up.
It's so hard to make 2 of these vlogs in a week. You know, because you get zoomed, you get sucked so much into the zone trying to get everything all synced up with how much time we put into the music and the story, and trying to get a entertaining piece of media out there that it's like at the end of it you're like, whoa. It kind of fries your brain because you get zoomed into every single frame, every single beat of the music.
This is what we're gonna do.
Every single word, every single,
Oh, someone asked this at the beginning, so I'll answer that. Does the Ring doorbell work well in your roadside stand? So it's been working really well because you guys were all like, get one of those cams that you can like check on your cell phone, so you don't have to like walk up and down to the stand to see if there's bouquets in it. And we like all day we're like checking it, like how's it doing? Are we selling lots? It's been really great for keeping track of what it looks like, keeping track of how sales are going. It's been great for selling. But I don't know if the pressing the button has been working every time. There's been a few times where people have like rang the bell, and I couldn't get it to connect, and so I just like walked out there. And I think that there's been a few times when people have rang the bell and it didn't actually ding our phones. So I like it. It's working, but maybe we need a sign that says, if you actually need us, phone my cell phone. Because it's more reliable than this bell thing. But yeah, we're really, I don't know how much we paid for it. It was a little pricey, but it's definitely worth the money. Oh, and the flower cutter. Was the flower cutter a game changer? So the flower cutter it wasn't actually that difficult for me to cut the stems because lots of the stuff that we use have really soft stems. But as we go,
like lilies.
Yeah, as we go into the summer with stuff like sunflowers and lilies, those are pretty nice to be cutting with the stem cutter.
100 bouquets in a night.
Yeah. And I feel like the stem cutter, more than being ergonomic, is speeding things up.
You know what I like about the stem cutter?
What?
In the videos, the
Kerchunk. I call it the Kerchunk machine.
Yeah.
It's Kerchunk.
It's very rewarding. But battery's dying, so we can't actually talk anymore. Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Thanks so much for hanging out.
Yep.
And we'll try to do this next week. And I will make
Members Live chat.
Is that, what are they called? A community post. That's what they're called.
Yeah.
I'll make a community post talking about some times, probably next week, for doing the members live chat. That's the plan.
Yep. We'll talk to you then.
Okay.
Later.
See ya. Yes, because I was supposed to do that.